Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, and I have been tagged. Thank you, Scott. Our good friend Kostenbraumstar tagged me in the latest one that's going around, the Guilty Pleasure movie tag. I will apologise in advance. I don't know who started this, so I don't know the proper rules that were instigated at the beginning of this. I'm going to go with Scott's version of it, how he interpreted it, because quite frankly, every movie on my particular list, I don't feel guilty about watching them at all. They're some of my favourite movies of all time, and there is nothing kind of like really deep and thought-provoking about any of these movies. There isn't a great many of them that were critically acclaimed, but I can quite happily sit on a Saturday or a Sunday evening or afternoon, whenever, and just throw one of these DVDs into the player and just have a really fun movie-going experience within the four walls of my living room. So these are my movies, and I'm kicking off with two from the same director. Scott won't be happy with me kicking this off because it's a director I know he doesn't like. I'm not exactly sure why, because his movies are very entrenched in certainly in comic book culture, if not the wider expanse of the kind of geeky nerdy pop culture side of everything that we love here in this community. But obviously this director rubs Scott up the wrong way somehow. But the first time I watched his very first movie, I kind of fell in love with this guy. He had the patter, the dialogue down, and I could identify with a lot of these characters to some lesser extent. I am of course talking about Kevin Smith and his first movie, Clerks. I love this movie. Many years ago I worked in, I guess, what is the equivalent of an American 7-Eleven, where I would have to open up the store, get everything ready, and then deal with the most stupid people in civilization, asking the stupidest questions you could possibly ask in their shopping day experience, and I had to do it all with a smile on my face and say have a nice day. But it's a great movie, and for the cost of it, it really did kind of catapult Kevin Smith to be kind of one of the lesser but major players directorially, I would say, and I just love all of his movies. Lesser so his second one, which was Mallrats. Felt that he kind of, after the success and all the money he made off this, he kind of pandered to a certain kind of MTV youth culture. But he got his shit sorted out, and he brought out my next favourite, which is Chasing Amy. This is my favourite Kevin Smith movie. I love just all the characters in this. Jason Lee. Jason Lee in here is he's such an underrated actor anyway, but I just think he's a great actor. I've loved everything pretty much that he's been in, and he plays a great character here. Again, it's kind of taking a wry look at relationships, certainly in this love triangle that we have here. Kind of the blurred lines of sexuality, etc. But you know, Kevin Smith, given that he is the love of the comic book culture, he has got our two characters as comic book creators, and although the comic book convention side of it is hilarious, all the kind of people that surround that kind of scenario is just, it's just fitting. You know, you've met them all. You've seen versions of these people, but laugh out loud. It's certainly in no way highbrow like many of his movies are not. But I just love watching Chasing Amy. It's funny, but at the same time it's emotional. It's a romance, but also a buddy movie. Just so much to love about Chasing Amy. Now, for my next two, again, it's by the same director, and he is my 80s director god. And I am not ashamed to say that the first movie I'm going to show of his is my favourite movie of all time. It doesn't matter whether I've literally just watched the whole thing the day before. If I see it on TV, no matter how far into the movie it is, I will sit down, I will drop everything and I will watch it. I love it that much. Of course, it's The Breakfast Club. I adore this movie. I cannot even imagine how many times I've watched this. I will watch it if it's on at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I will put it in the DVD player if it's 10. If it's like 10 in the morning, if it's like 6 in the afternoon, I don't care, I will watch this movie. And along with his other one, which is one of my favourites, which is Pretty in Pink. Around the time that these came out, and why these probably had such a big effect on me, was that we probably only just recently moved from the city of Liverpool, where I was born and raised. And then my parents took me to a small kind of country village town. There wasn't a lot going on. It was a very quiet, very sedate, you know, there was no big crimes or anything like that going on. You could walk the streets in kind of like at the end of the day and not be worried about being mugged or stabbed or harassed. Kids would just like spend hours and hours outside the house and your parents wouldn't even be worried about you. But at the same time, it was very dull. And these were my escape into a culture that, you know, I know didn't truly exist. This wasn't, I'm sure this wasn't anybody's real high school experience, but I'm sure there was elements of it. And I wanted to live in these worlds. I wanted to be in that detention room with these 5 people. Yes, I know people complain about John Hughes, his movies are derivative, they're highly unoriginal, but they have this element of truth. The Breakfast Club, why do I love it so much? I mean, yes, you have all these stereotypes. You've got Judd Nelson as the bad boy. You've got Emilio Estevez as the jock. You've got Molly Ringwald as the kind of prom princess. You've got Anthony C. Hall as the kind of geek. And then you've got Ali Sheedy playing the kind of nerdy girl, shy, retiring outsider. But it's something that goes kind of through the whole of John Hughes movies is that, you know, these people might be so incredibly different, but they're all flawed, but they also have their moments of beauty, and that just shines through in this movie so much. And it's one of those ones, and people don't like watching this with me because I'm saying all the words along with them. I know this script. If it's on the TV and it's ongoing, I will talk along with them because I know every line of this. Just my all-time favourite movie. And along with Pretty in Pink, these are the kind of movies, because there are movies where you listen to a soundtrack and you go, that's a fantastic song, and you go out and buy the movie soundtrack and then you put it in your cassette player. At the time it would have been cassettes for me. Now, you know, you put it in your CD player and then you listen to the song and you go, oh, it's actually not that good. And it's because the movies have made it that much bigger than it actually is. But these two, I remember having the cassette albums of Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink, and they were on non-stop. They have such great tracks in here, and just some great songs that I listen to still to this day. Just two of the finest John Hughes movies you can find. Now, to fill my love of all things kind of fantasy, Lord of the Ring-esque, I'm going to give you a Tom Cruise movie. A very young Tom Cruise. It's Legend. Now, I was torn between this and Labyrinth, and I could have stuck Labyrinth in this as well, but I think Labyrinth has a very kind of cool aspect to it as well. While Legend, as cheesy as it is, when I first saw this, I was completely mesmerised, and to some extent I am still to this day when I watch it. I just fall into this world of you know, these ridiculously fantastical creatures, and just having the unrecognisable Tim Curry as your kind of main villain in here it just astounds me every time. You just can't tell it's him at all through all the makeup and the prosthetics, and it just starts with this gorgeous kind of fantastical world, and then obviously as our baddie takes over and casts the world in snow and ice, you feel this dark oppression fall upon this land, and it just, as a young boy, I'm probably in my early teens when I watched this. I think maybe a little bit later, but it is still quite a scary movie once it gets into that darkness. And the struggle of these characters, and it really can be quite tense at times. But another movie goes in the DVD player, and I am just content and blissed out. Now, this is the one movie that I think is kind of more critically acclaimed perhaps than all the rest of mine, and it is a mind trip. It really is, and of course you would expect nothing less from this director, but I've watched it time and time again, and it's just that one point in the movie, and then everything flips and turns upside down, and then I've no idea what's gone on, but I will watch it again and again. And I've watched documentaries about this, and they always say all the answers are in the opening credits. And I've watched them time and time again. I'm going, what am I missing? What is going on here? I'm talking about the genius that is David Lynch, and what I think is his best work to date. It's Mulholland Drive. It starts off as a kind of regular type movie. It has a straightforward narrative. You have these two women. The first one, our young kind of Angevine, if that's the word I'm thinking of, a young aspiring actress coming to Hollywood for the first time and wanting to get into the movie business. And we have this kind of more experienced lady who kind of literally falls into the path of our younger wannabe actress, and it's a straightforward kind of crime noir type of story. And as their relationship both gets closer to each other, they end up going to this theatre one evening, and then this box on the stage opens, and then that's it. All bets are off. Everything that you thought was, you know, straightforward and right and uncomplicated gets turned on its head, and craziness and madness ensues. But I will watch it again and again to try and work out, and I still to this day, I feel very, very stupid, but I still, I'm enthralled by it, and I want to be able to understand and work it out. It is a tour de force for the last maybe 3/4 of an hour, half an hour of this movie, and just a crazy. I said you wouldn't expect any less from David Lynch. Just a beautifully shot movie, so well acted, but crazy as hell. More of a cult classic, and it's one of those movies that I think is helped even more so once you watch the extras, once you watch the behind the scenes, how things were created. They give you an even bigger appreciation for this film. This was directed by Walter Hill. It was probably, I'm going to say the 70s. It must have been the late 70s, early 80s that this came out. It's The Warriors. Just a fantastic movie. I can't even remember why I picked this up or why I bought this or when I first watched this, but it's another of those movies that were just so mesmerising. It was incredibly intense watching it, very exciting. But as I said, when you watch the background material to this, you realise how much was put into this movie, and what it took for, you know, to get this final product, just from getting all these kind of gangs together, the costume designs that were so amazingly done and so different from all the rest. It was colourful. You would expect a lot of it to be very grimy and dirty, and it's not saying that it isn't, but then you get these amazingly colourful and not intricate but well detailed costumes for all these characters. Just a great story, and another one that, you know, tense. I'll watch it again and again and again. If you've not seen The Warriors before and you want a good cult classic, with again another spot on soundtrack from this movie, then Warriors, it's for you. Finally, this is the contentious one, and I really don't know why, because I really enjoyed this movie. Let's talk a little bit about it before I show you a few ideas of what this may be. It's a comic book character movie, and it's around about the time that those comic book movies, you know, they were starting to get attention. You know, your X-Men movies, your Spider-Man movies and the like. So Marvel decided to introduce this particular character, probably thinking they could make a franchise out of this, but it didn't do very well at all, and we've not seen this character, I don't believe, since, even as a cameo in all of these now big huge blockbuster Marvel movies. I think I know why. The main actor had got himself quite a name, and was rising high in the kind of echelons of, you know, actors making lots of money, the Tom Cruises, the Brad Pitts and the like. He was starting to edge that way, so you saw his face everywhere, and I think maybe people were a little bit tired of him, because I actually think he made this character very close to what I wanted. In and out of costume. There were other characters that didn't quite fit and didn't quite melt for me, but shall I just show you? I know you're waiting. Get on with it, Mark. Daredevil. I love this film. I don't know what's wrong with you people. As Matt Murdock, as Daredevil, Ben Affleck was really good. He really kind of made that character what I saw in the comic books. Maybe not all the way through, because his character in the comic books does change a great deal from whoever's writing it. But I did think at the core he was very true to what Matt Murdock was, what Daredevil was. I thought the suit was fantastic. Yes, there was Elektra, who wasn't that great. I thought Colin Farrell as Bullseye almost got it there. You know, there was those elements of humour that you often find in when you read Bullseye in the comics, but there was also this very dangerous insanity about the character that Colin Farrell was able to pull off. I don't know, I will watch this. I'll watch it again. I'll probably watch it again today, just to remind myself how much I enjoy this movie. I don't know what's wrong. Please explain in the comments section down below why you didn't like Daredevil. And be nice. Don't be mean about it. And they are my movies. My guilty pleasures of the movie variety. I believe you're meant to tag someone on this. And I'm going to tag, because I don't really know much about, I know he watches TV shows, but I don't really know movie-wise what his kind of wheelhouse is. So it'll be interesting to hear. Are you ready? Oddfellows thoughts. Please tell me what your guilty pleasure movies are. Until next time, thank you for watching. Bye bye.